For our introduction and also research objective, the reason we're doing this is to investigate the factor influencing customer preference for global brands over our local brands among university students in Malaysia. Specifically, this study aims to examine how perceived brand quality, perceived association prestige, and also perceived associations with consumption trend influence our student preference for global brands. As you can see on the slide, our respondent read, the findings indicate that all collected questionnaires were usable for analysis. Therefore, the sample size of 1,023 respondents was considered adequate for the purpose of this study.
This slide presents the respondent profile for this study. A total of 123 university students participated in the survey. The respondents were analyzed based on gender, age, education level, type of study, university name, field of study, and monthly allowance. These demographic characteristics provide an overview of the respondent background and ensure that the sample includes students from diverse academic and financial background, making the study finding more representative and reliable. In the reliability analysis using Cronbach alpha, all variables record value above the recommended threshold of 0.70, indicating that the measurement scala are reliable. CP achieved the highest reliability with a Cronbach alpha of 0.993, followed by PSP at 0.91, PBQ at 0.90, PBG at 0.89, and PATC at 0.83. Therefore, all variables demonstrate good to excellent internal consistency and are suitable for further statistical analysis. Descriptive statistic of the study variable. PBG record the highest mean score of 4.04, indicating that respondents generally agree that global brands have a strong international presence. This was followed by PATC with a mean of 3.79, while PBQ scored 3.69. CO and PSP record mean score of 3.43 and 3.41. Respectively, overall, all variables had mean score above 3.4, showing generally positive perception toward global brand with moderate variation in respondent responses.
Next is Pearson correlation analysis. Pearson correlation was conducted to examine the relationship among the study variables before testing the structural model. The result shows that all variables were positively correlated, indicating that higher perceived brand globalness is associated with higher perceived brand quality, perceived social prestige, perceived association with consumption trend, and consumer preferences for global brands. These findings support the proposed research framework. Next is the structural model assessment using SmartPLS. The R-squared result shows that consumer preferences for global brands has an R-squared value of 0.502, meaning that 50.2% of its variance is explained by perceived brand quality, perceived social prestige, and perceived association with consumption trend. The F-squared analysis indicates that perceived brand globalness has the strongest effect on perceived association with consumption trends, while the VIF values are all below the recommended threshold, confirming that there are no multicollinearity issues in the model.
Okay, next, for bootstrapping analysis, we use SmartPLS4 to test the 6 proposed hypotheses. From the result, 5 out of 6 hypotheses were supported. The results show that perceived brand globalness has a significant positive influence on perceived brand quality, perceived social prestige, and perceived association with consumption trends. In addition, perceived brand quality and perceived social prestige both have a significant positive effect on consumer preference for global brands, with perceived social prestige being the strongest factor. However, perceived association with consumption trends does not significantly influence consumer preference for global brands. So overall, from the findings, the consumer are more likely to prefer global brands because they see them as having more better quality and higher social prestige. Thank you.
Next, I will discuss the finding of our study by comparing the SPSS and SmartPLS result. Overall, both methods produced a consistent finding. 5 hypotheses were supported, while 1 hypothesis was not supported. The main difference is that SPSS used a regression analysis to examine the relationship between the variable, where the SmartPLS evaluate the overall structure model using a bootstrapping. Although the statistical values are slightly different, so both methods reach the same conclusion. For hypothesis 1 to 5, both SPSS and SmartPLS confirm
significant positive relationship. So these findings are also in line with the case Yu and Dong, showing that perceived brand globalness positively influence the consumer preference for a global brands. However, for hypothesis 6, both methods show a non-significant relationship, so this finding is not in line with the case of Yu and Dong, so suggesting that Malaysian university students place a greater importance on the product quality and the social prestige than on following current consumption trends when choosing a global brand. That's all from me. Thank you.
Based on the findings, perceived social prestige is the strongest factor influencing students' preference for global brands, followed by perceived brand quality. Therefore, marketers should build a prestigious brand image while maintaining high product quality. Local brand managers should strengthen their brand image, and policymakers should support local business through branding and innovation programs. This study has several limitations. The sample consists of only 123 university students, so the findings cannot represent all Malaysian consumers. In addition, the study used a cross-sectional design. It examined only 4 variables and relied on questionnaires which may introduce response bias. Next, recommendation for future research. For future research, a large and more diverse sample should be used, including different consumer groups and countries. Researchers should also examine additional factors such as brand trust, price perception, and social media influence, and consider using longitudinal and mixed method research for more comprehensive findings. In conclusion, all research objectives were successfully achieved. 5 out of 6 hypotheses were accepted, while 1 was rejected. The findings showed that students prefer global brands mainly because of social prestige and brand quality, providing useful insight for marketers, local brand managers, and policymakers.